Read 'em and weep, boys. Good morning, mushrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins out there around the world, it is time to plug in and get this train chugging. Still in the news, it's carrying on from the weekend from last week. We had that huge deadly blast. And so, yes, the government is going to resign as a result of it in the wake of something. It's been on the show countless times. A boat, as it goes through water, there's a V-shaped wave that follows behind the boat. That is the wake. And so if something happens in the wake of something else, that means it's happening after it and as a result of it. And that's basically how that goes. It's almost weekly now that we have it on the shows. Now, we know about plagues, biblical sort of plagues like locusts and floods and hail and other things. If something is bothering something and it just won't go away and it's having a very detrimental, a very negative effect, the crisis-plagued government, the government is facing a plague of crises, and so it's just one crisis after another. They can't get rid of it, just like my show is plagued with it's a tech plagued broadcast or something along this. I don't know, but yes, and so the crises just won't go away, and it's one after another. Just like in the Bible, there's 7 of them, I think. Terrible things like the Black Death. Let's move on. He appears to backtrack on the Beirut explosion cause, because originally they said it looks like an attack, and so now he's backtracking. He's trying to pull his comments back. There's no way he can retract them, but he can walk them back a little bit, maybe try and explain them away and so on. But to backtrack means to go back the way that you came. It's not outrage, it's not backlash, but they're pushing back against it, and they're voicing or demonstrating their opposition to whatever the thing was. All right, let's move on. Enormous damage from this blast, and the human toll. Remember, to take a toll on something means to do damage, and then there is the death toll. We use the death toll because the bell rings in the church when it's time for the funeral, and so For Whom the Bell Tolls. It's a famous novel and also a song, I think Metallica. Yes, the death toll, or to take a toll on something, means to do damage. And so here they're talking about the damage that has been done to the humans and the countless lives that have been affected by this. Feel free to chime in all the time, anytime. Pleasure to have you on the show. Let's go. Moving on. It's a stunt. It's something difficult to do. And done for show. Yeah, much like a motorcycle daredevil that jumps over a bunch of buses or something like that. It's just something done for the spectators. Something to be seen, often maybe involving some illusion or magic. But his political stunt, his ploy, his evil plot and scheme to try and make things happen is already faltering. And to falter means to become weaker and or less effective. We could say, yes, as a result of the COVID, the economy is faltering. When she went to go speak to her boss, he gave her a very quizzical look, and her confidence began to falter. Her confidence started, it wasn't plummeting, but it was decreasing. We had blast for explosion up above, now we've got blast for criticism. Because remember, a blast, like the shockwave from an explosion, or the air coming out of the muzzle of a gun after you pull the trigger and shoot the bullet, yeah, it's a forcible projection of air. And so when you're very vocally and vehemently criticizing somebody with forcible ejections of hot air, this is an interesting one. Some people are giving up their U.S. citizenship, and apparently those numbers have risen dramatically from last year to this year. Now, there are always a few thousand Americans every year who are giving up their citizenship, and they're saying, I don't want to be a citizen anymore. And hopefully they're becoming a citizen of another country, otherwise they're just without a country, and that's not a good position to be in. However, to give up something, just like people like to give up bad habits, to quit it, to not do it anymore, to not have it anymore, and so they're giving it up. A more formal verb for this is to renounce. They are renouncing their citizenship. Yeah, and most people do it for tax reasons. For example, I don't make much money, so I don't have to pay taxes in the U.S., but I still have to file my income and tax forms. However, for people, say, a high-powered banker sort of guy in Switzerland who's making tons of money, he's paying the full taxes in Switzerland, but also paying full taxes in the United States. They're getting taxed on both sides. And yeah, when you're doing it on both sides, you end up with this. I don't know, why am I doing this? Okay, let's move on. Somebody think about the children. Kids may be COVID long haulers. To be in it for the long haul means to not give up and continue doing something until it's done. To see it through until the end. So to be in it for the long haul is to continue doing something till its end. To see it through to completion despite any hardships or other difficulties that they might encounter. Now, these kids are in it for the long haul because many of them will probably suffer from lasting side effects as a result of the disease, etc. And, well, this is going to be with humanity for a while, so they're going to be around dealing with it for a long time. To haul typically means to pull. And so we use that for semi-trucks, the big trucks that move cargo on the road. There's long-haul truckers that go from coast to coast, yeah, or all around the country. We also talk about long-haul flights. It just means long in duration in that case. And so, yeah, from 6 to 12 hours is technically a long-haul flight. Over 12, it's an ultra-long-haul flight, just for your random piece of information factoid to put in your pocket. But so the kids are in it for the long haul. We're going to see haul in a different way, in a much more cool way down below. Moving on. How many times on the show here as well? To hit a milestone. Typically we've been using it on the show with to reach a milestone, but to hit a milestone, that milestone is a stone on the side of the road with a number written on it. So you know how far you've gone and how far you still have yet to go. It's a way to measure progress. All right, McDonald's is suing its ousted CEO for lying about sexual relationships with employees. I don't know if there was misconduct. However, if it's with somebody in an inferior position, then it's usually unethical. And if you are the CEO, that means pretty much everybody is in an inferior position to you. And so, come on. But so he or she, actually, yeah, it could have been a woman, but typically when we're talking about bad sexual relationships with employees, it's usually from dudes because they're usually the CEOs because, well, sexism in society. However, he was ousted. He was kicked out. Kicked out. He was pushed out. He was driven out as a result of misconduct. And now McDonald's is suing him for lying about these things, because apparently new revelations, new details have emerged about his past conduct in the company. But to be ousted is to be kicked out, pushed out, maybe forced to resign, not actually fired, but they're pushing you out one way or another. Let's move on to Hong Kong. Media tycoon arrested. Jimmy Lai, poor Jimmy Lai, facing trial now in Hong Kong. He has been arrested and he's facing charges and probably prison. The point being, tycoon. We use that for big businessmen. Yeah. You could also say a mogul, a retail mogul, a real estate mogul, shipping mogul, or tycoon. And it's interesting, though, because I did not know this until just before the show. The word tycoon actually comes from Japanese, and it means great lord. And that was the term in the mid to late 1800s that foreigners used for the shogun because they couldn't say shogun, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it comes from Japanese. And so we got media tycoons, real estate tycoons, etc. Wow, cool. Another nice, interesting little piece of information that I'm going to keep in my pocket. Instead of landslide election victories, landslide losses, wins, etc., we have an actual physical landslide here. In Kerala, southwestern state of India, there's been monsoon and the soil, the dirt has become super saturated and unstable, and it broke loose and came down and buried a small camp/village of tea plantation workers and their children. And so kills at least 43, hundreds or many more missing, and just terrible state of affairs. So everybody out here in Twitch land, on the internet, at home, wherever you are, count your blessings. Be happy that you have not been buried alive. I don't know. I'm used to things being my fault. Much of my life is my fault, to be honest. But thunderstorms can trigger asthma attacks. Just like we always say, you got a gun, and here you got the trigger finger. Yeah, if you pull the trigger, it causes the bullet to happen. Something happens very, very quickly. And so if we trigger something, it just means cause it to happen, but often in a fast and violent fashion. See, a large chunk of glacier at risk of falling. A chunk is just a big, massive piece of something. Chunks of the facade of the building were falling off onto the street. It's just a big, massive piece of something. It's not an itty-bitty bit. It's a big old chunk. Moving on. Kodak. We saw Kodak shares skyrocket when the government announced a loan for them to pivot their business into being a pharmaceutical chemical manufacturer. However, now it seems like that loan has been put on hold. So they're saying, whoa dog, not so fast, slow your roll here. And so then the Kodak stock dives, not plunged, not plummeted. Yes, that's a plunge, that's a plummet, because also diving is about the same. You're going head first and falling in an uncontrollable fashion 40%. That is a very significant amount. To dive, of course, the past tense. What is the past tense of dive? Ooh, is it dived or is it dove? Well, technically, both are true, so you are in luck. Dove, while both are used interchangeably on either side of the pond, both in the UK and the US, dove does tend to be more American, as I'm told. If you think about it, like, oh yeah, yesterday I dove into the water. Yes, that sounds okay. But you wouldn't say I scuba dove. You'd say I scuba dived. And so maybe there's a differentiation between what sort of diving you're talking about doing. I don't know. All right, he was doing good. He had a horrific crash. The crash itself was horrifying. I was horrified, but the crash was horrific. Yeah, and it was very, very injured, but the team doctor says it can achieve. It will take some work and some rehabilitation, but we'll be able to achieve a comeback. And so that's returning to a state, a good condition, or even surpassing a previous condition and overcoming all of those challenges. Yes, suffer a few setbacks, a few broken bones and other things, but could stage a comeback, and not even just stage it, but also achieve it. Amateur archaeology of sorts, and that's what I like. Amateur metal detectorist finds astonishing, amazing, surprising, you're just wow, Bronze Age haul in Scotland. Now, this is old, Bronze Age, we're talking like 3,000 years ago, and going around with his metal detector, beep, 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 like we see on the beach here. He found a whole bunch of ancient stuff from the Bronze Age, and it was a Bronze Age haul. And so it's an interesting use of this. Usually a haul is for some sort of illegal goods or something, but it could also be a win, because remember, haul, the idea is about pulling. And so like pulling it in, and then it becomes yours. Basketball, great weeps for Barcelona. I live in Barcelona. No, Beirut, obviously. But the point being, to weep. To weep means to cry. It's a lot of noise involved, like uncontrollably weeping. That's a very common collocation, to be weeping uncontrollably. Oh, that just made me think of playing cards. If you're playing poker and maybe you've got like a flush or like a really good hand, and a lot of people got a lot of money in, and you just know that you're going to win it, and at the end when you have to turn your cards over, then we say, read them and weep. And it means check out my cards and cry because I've got the winning hand. Read them and weep, boys. Speaking of Barcelona, maybe that's why I said Barcelona instead of Beirut. But an inspired Messi lifts Barcelona into the quarterfinals. Now, not a Barca fan, not a Messi fan per se. I can respect him. Hats off for your accomplishment, skills, and abilities. You are amazing. However, I'm just pointing out it's a very nice way of writing the headline here. An inspired Messi lifts the entire team into the quarterfinals. It's just so much better than Barca wins thanks to Messi. Good visual vocabulary. Right like that. How the investigation into Rudy Giuliani is unfolding. Because everything is a mystery. It's like a piece of paper that's been folded up, and you need to unfold it to see what the mystery inside is. Do you remember these things? I used to make these in school. It's like some sort of fortune teller thing, and you pick a number, and then you have to go and unfold the mystery. Just like we also unravel mysteries. And so it's how it's progressing, because we don't know how it's going to end up. We don't know how it's going to turn out. And so we need to unravel the mystery. We need to unfold the mystery. And what do we find? Oh, nothing on this piece of paper, at least. And so, let's move on. Instacart went on a hiring spree. These workers got squeezed. Usually go on a spree, and we have different types of sprees, but it implies uninhibited and joyful. Yeah, like wee, wee, wee. And we've got a hiring spree. They're hiring people left and right. Go on a shopping spree. You just, ooh, I want one of these and one of those and some of this and some of that. It's uninhibited. You're not holding yourself back. Guest star on the show, Waldo, came in with licking my toes. And so, hiring spree. So they're hiring, give me one of these guys. Give me a programmer. Give me some HR. Give me a finance guy. Give me some marketing. But some other workers are getting squeezed. It's becoming more and more difficult for them. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Don't bother. Don't mess with me when I'm doing my show, man. Stay in your lane. Or whatever. Just kidding. I love you, Staniak. Don't leave me. Shark Week kicks off with Mike Tyson. He is hosting or emceeing Shark Week. To kick something off is to start it. Just like in football, both the American and the rest of the world kind of football, it starts with somebody kicking the ball. And that's what starts the game. To kick something off, we also kick off a convention. We kick off an exhibition. We kick off a demonstration, a product demonstration. We can kick off the meeting. We even have kickoff meetings, which are then intended, the kickoff meetings are then intended to kick off a much larger series of meetings. Kickoff negotiations. And so I'm going to shut this down before you guys kick me out. As you can see, we're doing the shows at 8 p.m. We're flip-flopping our day and turning things upside down. I'm going to keep saying good morning, mushrooms, because no matter what time of day it is, it's always morning somewhere. And so, if I don't see you sooner, 8 p.m. tomorrow. Have a beautiful evening or day, wherever you may be. Bye-bye.